Hey everyone, so I watched dozens of videos about Filofax and GTD on YouTube, and surprisingly, there are actually very few videos that talk about both. And I'm surprised about it because I thought you could find anything on YouTube, so now I feel like it's my duty to make a video on this topic. I've been using this exact setup for 12 months now. It's not the first time for me using a Filofax for GTD, but initially I followed GTD very loosely, and I think that's why it didn't work as well. So it's only when I decided to be really strict about it that I realized how helpful it is. So here's how it looks right now. My setup consists of several key GTD components. It's the inbox. This is where I capture all incoming tasks, ideas, random information. Calendar, where I schedule tasks and appointments. The next action lists that is divided into personal and work sections. The waiting for list that tracks tasks I delegated to others, and the project lists. These are just tasks that require multiple steps to complete. In GTD terminology, these are referred to as projects. Oh, yeah, and the contextual list as well. That's a list of tasks that is only relevant in a specific context and that I don't need to look at otherwise. So for me, for instance, it's a list of tasks that I do when I'm in Slovenia. The way the system works is very straightforward. Whenever I have a thought like I need to do something, or even if I just have an idea about a project, I note it down in my inbox. It can be very tempting to skip the inbox and place the item straight in your next actions list. But there are several strong arguments for an inbox, in my opinion. So first of all, the to-do items that come to my mind are often very poorly defined at first. They're vague, they're unspecific, and often they're not even tasks, but like projects with multiple steps. And for me, nothing makes me procrastinate more than an undefined broad task. But if I put this undefined broad task into the inbox first, I give myself an opportunity to clarify it later. So that's one of the reasons I always use the inbox. And the second reason is that I'm horrible at prioritizing my work. I easily get lost in busy work, and whenever random things pop into my to-do list, into my next action list, I end up doing random to-do items in random order. So again, if I have a chance to process the inbox critically and with attention, I am more likely to delegate or more likely to just schedule low value add tasks to a later time of the day. And I'm just more careful with my time overall. So how do I process this inbox? Every morning, I look at each item and I ask myself, is this a task or a project? If it's a project, it goes on the projects list. And if it's a task, I ask myself, can I do this under 2 minutes? If yes, I just do it. And if not, can I delegate this? If not, then I ask myself, does this thing have a deadline? If yes, it goes into my calendar. And if not, on my next action list. When you follow this for the first time, it might feel very overwhelming, but it's like learning to drive a car. It eventually becomes automatic and you don't even need to think about it really. I have several things that act as my inbox. I wish I had one, but for me personally, it's unrealistic to think that as I'm walking down the street, I have an idea and I will stop, open my backpack, take out my Filofax and cap my pen and write it down. I know I won't, and half of my thoughts will remain in my head and I won't trust my system, so I'll just stop using it. I think it's perfectly fine to have multiple inboxes as long as you check all of them regularly. So for me, aside from this Filofax inbox, I also have voice notes. I use the recorder on my Apple Watch to capture thoughts when I'm on the go, and these notes end up in my Notion inbox page from where I process them. Then I have the later function in Slack. When I get a message in Slack that requires me to do something, but I will not be dealing with it immediately, I save it for later, and this serves as another inbox that I process. Then there's the email inbox, the notifications inbox in a community that I manage, and WhatsApp because I use it for work. So when I sit down to process my inboxes in the morning, I always process all of them. And you might ask whether I get lost in them, if I forget to check any of them. And the answer is no. I made this cheat sheet for myself and I literally always use it whenever I check my system. I open the page and I go through each inbox one by one, and this completely eliminates the possibility of forgetting something. And generally, I'm a big aviation buff, and I think we can borrow so much from the way pilots work. So checklists for me are all the way. And I also regularly flip through the upcoming weeks just to be sure that I'm working on whatever large future events or tasks are coming up, like if I'm teaching a course, but of course they would also then be found in my project list. Speaking of which, then I look at my project list and I consider the next steps for each project. It does not mean that I decide on the spot every morning what needs to be done. In fact, there is a concept in GTD, project support materials. That means sometimes I plan out an entire project on paper or in my head, or I collect useful ideas. And I tried to do this in Filofax, like through these additional loose sheets behind the project tab, but it was just impossible to keep everything on paper. So half of it was in Notion and it wasn't possible to review together. So I scrapped the paper project support materials and I just keep mine in Notion. So when I look at a project, I will usually open the Notion page associated with this project and look at the main page to help me decide on what the next action should be for that project. I don't know if that sounds like a lot, but overall, this whole exercise takes me 15 to 20 minutes each morning. And I can tell you that I'm much more productive and calm on the days that I do this versus on the days when I'm being lazy and skip it and just do whatever grabs my attention. But since I capture everything, sometimes I end up with too many tasks on my next action list and I feel overwhelmed. And I think it's very important to sometimes trim it down and just decide not to do certain things. Or if I have to do everything on my list, then what I do is I use time blocking for the day, and I made a video about it here. So yeah, this is my system. I'm sure I still get some of the GTD things wrong. I actually keep rereading and re-listening to the GTD book because I find it very motivating. And also every time I do it, I notice things that I haven't picked up earlier. But generally, this is the best GTD has ever worked for me. And I think the fact that my setup hasn't changed in 12 months is a testament to how effective it is. So I think in the next video, I'm going to share with you how you can implement GTD in Todoist. Again, I've tried it before, it was not successful, but I think now that I really understand GTD, I know how to also do it in Todoist. So if you would like to see that video, subscribe not to miss it. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.